So hello! On this channel we talk about independent spirituality and folk magic for free spirits. My name is Aster, and in today's video I have the honor of telling you a little bit about Pombagira. Who is this entity, how to work with her, how to connect with yours, and much more. First and foremost, before we get into the theme in itself, something that I need to make very clear is that I'm not a saint mother or high priestess. I'm not a specialist in any way, okay? I'm just a person who works with her spiritual team, and in my personal case, my team is composed of 2 Pombagiras and 1 Malandro, which could be translated as rascal, but it's kind of weird to say that. These entities belong to the left-hand path, and they are part of some Afro-Brazilian religions, like Umbanda, for example. My mother's family has been part of Umbanda for a long time, for years and years, and if you don't know what that is, you can find more information about it on the video that I have made some time ago talking exactly about this religion. The video is about what is Umbanda and how it influences my practice as a Brazilian folk witch. If you haven't seen that video already, it's going to be linked up here in the cards and also in the description down below. So I'm not a specialist, but I am still making this video because after all, I'm born and raised within the culture where this entity is venerated. And I know a thing or two that I can share because I know that there's people out there who don't speak Portuguese, and because of that language barrier, they are unable to access reliable information online and also offline. Like, you can't really pick up certain books that are written in Portuguese if you don't speak that language, right? Also, I have seen some misinformation about this topic on YouTube specifically. I believe that information is meant to be shared, but if it's not your culture and you have no solid knowledge about it, I really don't think it is your place to come to the internet and teach others about it. Like, it would be completely inappropriate, for example, if I would come here and mean to teach about Chinese folk magic to other people just because I've read a couple of books about it. It's not my culture. I've never been to China. It's not my place to come and tell you how it works or how it doesn't work or whatever. You know what I mean? If a person has never set foot in a temple, it is really inappropriate of them to come to the internet and try and teach other people about the entities that are part of those practices, period. So I am very happy to be able to sit here and tell you a little bit of what I know, being a person who comes from that culture. And like I've said, I'm not a specialist, but I think that I can give you a little bit of like a solid base, let's say, because this religion has been in my family for a long time and I work personally with those entities. So yeah, there you go. Now, with that being said, let's get into it. In order to address the Pombagira topic and tell you about who she is and many other things, I have separated a few questions here that I am going to answer one by one so we can understand who Pombagiras are. Now, is this a closed practice? No, not at all. I usually make a comparison between those entities and Afro-Brazilian spirituality with Catholicism. I make a comparison because, for example, everybody can pray to a saint, right? Everybody can petition a saint, can light a candle for a saint, they can have an altar at home if they want. Anyone can go to mass, right? It is free for any person to reach out to and connect with if so they choose. Isn't that so? The same thing applies to Afro-Brazilian spirituality and to the entities that are found in them, especially because everybody has a Pombagira or other left-hand path entities accompanying them. You have those entities accompanying you. They are your personal guardians. So of course that you are are free to reach out to them if you want to. Each person's personal spiritual team can look a little bit different. Like, for example, most people will have one Pombagira and one issue, but that's not my case. So it takes a little bit of finding out like who your entities actually are, but they are definitely there and you can connect with them. This is not a closed practice. But just like with Catholicism, just because you are praying to a saint, that does not make you a priest, right? So it's one thing to connect with the entities, and it's another thing to become a saint father or saint mother, high priest, right? Open a temple, perform services to other people. That's a different story, and that's not what we're talking about here. We are talking about independent spirituality and how you as an individual can get to know your entity and like build a relationship with her, work with her. That you are free and welcome to do. Now, what is a Pombagira? A Pombagira is a female entity that is the spirit of somebody who was alive a long time ago. They are an ancestor of yours and guardian. So they have a close relationship with your family line. They were either part of your family by blood, by marriage, by adoption, or they had a very close relationship with members of your family, and it's part of the team. Pretty much. It takes them like a couple hundred of years to develop spiritually until they get to the point where they can choose to become those entities. Like, for example, now in present time, we are working with Pombagiras who have been alive in the 18th century, for example. They are very fierce protectors. They are also very powerful, they are the strong female characters that get shit done unapologetically, and they choose to accompany us before birth based on affinity, personality traits. This choice could also be made due to personal missions, pacts, and even karma sometimes. These female spirits have a lot of personality. They are very sassy and, in charge. I really like how strong they are as females. They are beautiful, they are like full of themselves, and once you start connecting with them, you become it's like part of that energy comes to you as well, and you become just as sassy as they are. A Pombagira, or the entities of the left-hand path in general, they can accompany a person throughout their entire life. That can happen, but at a certain point they can also leave. That depends. Maybe, for example, you two have different goals, like conflicting goals, and you can't seem to be able to work together because the entities, they have their own personal goals, and when we work with them, they help us with our goals so we can help them with theirs in exchange. You see, it's an exchange. But they could also leave a person if their mission with us is complete. So there's no reason for them to continue and stick around, But most of the time, they tend to stay with us throughout our entire life because it's like partners. They are with us for the good and for the bad. It's what they're meant to do. They are accompanying us throughout this lifetime. Something that sometimes makes the left-hand path entities a little bit misunderstood, especially by people who are not familiar with the Afro-Brazilian religiosity, is that those entities embrace both light and dark. They are just like us. They used to be humans and they still are, except that they don't have a body anymore, a physical body. But they are like us. They have a positive side and a negative one. Weaknesses and strengths kind of thing, They work in the light, but they also work in the shadow. They can sometimes sometimes be drama queens, they can be frivolous, they can be petty, they can be selfish, but they can also be generous, understanding, patient, loving, and caring. Just like us, you know? I have flaws and I have strengths. It's the same. Those spirits, they're just like us. These entities, I mean, dealing with them is something very serious, okay? This is not meant to be taken lightly. This is not about lighting a pink candle in your bedroom. There's a whole procedure around it, and they are serious entities. They are no joke. They are not just frolicking around to please you, okay? They can perform good deeds and bad deeds, and you do not want to cross a Pombagira because they're gonna lash at you, okay? So if you want to work with Pombagira, take it seriously, be responsible, just like you take any other of your relationships in life. You gotta take it seriously, right? You gotta respect the other individual. It's the same thing with Pombagira. And don't you ever break a deal that you've made with her, because she's gonna keep your word, okay? And if you reach out to Pombagira, take it seriously. I'm not saying that to make anyone feel afraid or something. It's just that this is no joke. This is serious, and it requires a level of respect, okay? Is that understood? This is not about like rainbows and leaping bunnies, all right? These entities, they do not follow the same moral codes and taboos that we have because they've been dead for a very long time. They are completely detached from all of that. And what does that mean? It means that they are not going to judge you. They will advise you on what's in your best interest, and regardless of your choices, they're not going to judge you. They are not going to make choices for you. They are going to support you. Doesn't matter the path that you choose to take. Even if you do certain things that are considered wrong in our society's standards, a Pombagira is not there to judge you. You do you. I'm just here to help. So when these spirits become Pombagiras, they choose to join a certain group of entities. There are several different groups of entities, and the spirit is going to choose one group based on affinity, personality traits, and similar life experiences, like things they had been through in life, the way they died, you know, people who are more polished, people who are like in a group, there's people who are more polished, in the other, people who are a little bit rougher around the edges. Okay, so once a spirit chooses a group, okay, I'm gonna join this group here, the spirit is no longer going to present themselves to the living using the name they had when they were alive. They will present themselves with the name of the group, like it's a title kind of thing, or a stage name. Like, for example, there's the group of Maria Padilha. I believe that Maria Padilha is the most known Pombagira internationally. So that's a group of Pombagiras. And instead of coming and telling you, oh, hey, my name is Christina, no, they're gonna tell you, hey, my name is Maria Padilha, because that's the group they belong to. So if I have one Maria Padilha accompanying me, and so do you, even if they present themselves with the same name, they are not the same spirit. And it takes a lot of intimacy and relationship development for those spirits to tell you how they were called when they were alive. This is not something that they just go around telling people. So just to give you some examples of groups of Pombagiras that exist, we have Maria Quitéria, Maria Farrapo, Maria Mulambo, Maria Padilha, Dama da Noite, Rosa Caveira, Espalha Brasa, Sete Saias, Tata Mulambo, and many others. Inside of all of those groups, there's subdivisions of other categories, but I'm not gonna get into that because then it becomes even more complex. I hope all of this is making sense, by the way. So each of those names I have just said represents one group of Pombagiras, and each group has like thousands of spirits that are part of the group. Each of those thousands of spirits will present themselves to the living using the name of the group that they come from. Understood? Something that is an interesting interesting detail about Pombagiras is that during their lifetime, they were kind of witchy. They knew their way around magic and they continue to learn about it after death. So the cult of this type of entity is very ancient, very old. I'm not gonna get into the origins of all of that, but they are much older than any religious institution. And as I have mentioned before, Pombagira is for everybody regardless of origin, because after all, they are your personal guardian. In Brazilian culture, they are very much known for handling love and sex matters like nobody's business, but of course that their abilities go way beyond that. They are amazing protectors and they will make sure that your roads are always open if you take good care of them. They are really great spiritual allies. Okay, if you have this entity accompanying you, how can you know who she is? Like, what do you do? How to know who is your Pombagira if there are so many different groups? So most people will have, I would say like 99% of people will have a Pombagira who is available to work with them as a spiritual ally. They are part of your spiritual team. They have been accompanying your family and you since a long time. Each person's spiritual team look a little bit different, so maybe you can have not only a Pombagira but also other entities or maybe multiple Pombagiras. It can also happen that you have no Pombagira but other entities, but anyway, most likely there is a Pombagira who accompanies you. You can discover who she is by yourself. That is possible. You can discover who she is through dreams, through divination. You can get to the point of hearing her reaching out to you. That can definitely happen. But if you are working by yourself, especially if you are starting out dealing with spirits and everything, it can be a little bit confusing to understand, to pick up on the signals. That was definitely my case. So what I did was to consult with a saint father, the authority of an Umbanda temple. I also usually say that they are high priests, just so the understanding in English is a little bit easier. So I consulted with this saint father to ask them if there were any entities accompanying me, who they were, what were their names, what they like as offerings, and that made my life so much easier. It is really worth it consulting with a professional, let's say. But I have to mention that something very interesting happened when I consulted with him. I started trying to deal with spirits through ancestor work. This was the first thing I started doing. And as I started my ancestor work practice, I got some spirits replying to me, but I wasn't really understanding what was going on, the signals they were sending. But when I consulted with the Saint Father, he told me, oh, you have 3 entities accompanying you, 2 Pombagiras, 1 Malandro. When he told me that, there was like a click in my head, and I remember the day where I was before my altar and I was asking, is there anybody here with me? And I drew the cards, tarot cards. What cards came up? The Queen of Wands, the Queen of Swords, and the Knight of Wands. If you are familiar with tarot, you know that the court cards represent people, right? Or spirits in this case. And as I was consulting with the Saint Father and he was telling me about the personality of each of the entities accompanying me, it is exactly who those cards represent in the tarot. I was like, what? And I drew those cards, like I asked the question, is there anybody here with me? That was months before I even thought about having a consultation with a high priest. So that totally blew my mind because I was already receiving the signals. I was just like not understanding. Also, another thing that I remembered during my consultation was one day that I was meditating and I encountered one of my Pombagiras on my path working journey. It was this woman all dressed in black. I couldn't see her face, but she was all in black. And I'm even messing up what I'm saying because it was really mind-blowing to me. Even remembering about it is mind-blowing. When the Saint Father told me, oh, this Pombagira of yours, she dresses all in black. I immediately remembered about that meditation in which I saw that woman all in black in the middle of the path I was going through. But when I saw that in my meditation, I was like, what? Me and the entity, we were like, we were both like just kind of staring at each other, and I didn't know what to do. I didn't know who that was, so I just walked past, but that definitely stood out to me. Because I was intrigued. I was like, who was this? That was interesting. And throughout my consultation with the high priest, I also remembered that many times when I decided to, okay, I'm gonna try to reach out to Pombagira, there's probably one who accompanies me, I will try to find out who she is. And when I started doing that, I would have two names coming to my mind. Two names. And I thought, no, this can't be right, because it's supposed to be one Pombagira, and I'm just messing up the names here. This is not right. Well, turns out that it was right. I was getting the right names in my mind. I was just not expecting that I would have two Pombagiras with me. That's why I was confused, because I thought a person could only have one Pombagira at a time. So for each person, it's going to be a little bit different. But what I'm trying to say, sharing my experiences with discovering who my Pombagiras are, is that when you start your journey with them, if you choose to do that, you have to trust your intuition, trust the signals that you receive, because they will start communicating with you. They will start communicating with you. Just trust it. When I started getting two names in my head, you know, I started hearing those two names. Yeah, it was right. I just didn't trust it. I thought I was getting it wrong, but I wasn't. Now, how is it like to work with a Pombagira? What can you expect? Well, Pombagiras, they are very fast problem solvers. Everything is for yesterday. If you have the path open to a certain something, they are very fast. They act very quickly. There's no time to waste. And people out there better not mess with you, because they're not gonna be merciful. Yeah. However, it's important to keep in mind that Pombagiras don't just give. They don't give anything. They don't owe you anything, and especially if you don't have an established relationship with them, they're not gonna just give you stuff, okay? They retribute. So you have to give the first step, showing them appreciation, showing them respect, giving offerings, giving gifts, being consistent if you want to build a relationship with them. Keep in mind that they will give back to you the energy that you are giving to them. So, how is it like to venerate a Pombagira? How do you do that? I'm not gonna get into that in this video, because I already have a vlog in which I pretty much show all my procedure. It's a vlog about exactly, it is written in the title, Pombagira veneration. If you haven't watched it, it's going to be linked up here and also in the description below. If you want to take a closer look at what I do, like what does it look like? And I like to do it once a week, every week. The best day for you to venerate a Pombagira is the day that you can, but if you can choose, the best days of the week are Mondays and Fridays. I prefer Friday, but now that I'm about to start working a job and everything, I'm gonna have to, you know, work with the days that I will be able to. If you want to start a veneration process, how do you do that? Well, for me, my team started reaching out when I started ancestor work. So if you want to know how to do that, I also have a video talking about it, how to do ancestor work. Again, it's going to be linked in the cards and in the description if you want to check it out. But in a nutshell, you can start with a glass of water and a white candle. Make sure to hold the candle and dedicate it, like say it out loud. I dedicate this candle to the Pombagira who is accompanying me, my personal guardian, and then you light the candle, you say who you are, you say who you want to reach out to. I would like to connect with my Pombagira, my guardian, the beautiful one who's meant to take care of me. I would like to know who you are, and you know, those kinds of things. Kindly ask her to come forth and manifest herself. That's more or less where you get started. And you can expect to feel shivers, especially on your legs, your shins, and on your head. So if you want to have a head cover, that's always a good idea, but it's not really necessary. How can you reach out to Pombagiras and where can you find them? So your personal team will be very much reachable to you at all times. They can come by your house with no problem. But if you want to reach out to other Pombagiras who are outside of your team, even your own as well, you can find them at two places: cemeteries, but especially crossroads. They are spirits of movement. They have a lot of energy, so they will not be sitting around at one spot. Their preferred place to be are the crossroads. So if you want to reach out to whatever Pombagira, you can grab an offering and go to a crossroad. And also sometimes I do offerings for my own entities at the crossroads, because that's somewhere they will be. Just before you enter a crossroads with an offering and everything, make sure that you have the name of the spirit you want to talk to. Don't go stand in a crossroads for anything spiritual not knowing what spirit you are going to reach out to. Okay, you gotta have a name. And in this case, like I have explained previously, the name of the group, you know, is the name of the entity you want to talk to. Do not go to a crossroads with an offering and all, not knowing who you want to talk to. That's like begging to go back home charged with weird stuff. So yeah, make sure you know who you want to talk to before you go to a crossroads. Let's say you want to talk to Maria Padilha. So you can grab red roses, for example. You can grab a drink, a little tiny cup of something like martini or cider or you name it. Those are pretty much her favorites. Also wine sometimes, sweet things. You go to the crossroads and first of all, you ask permission of the guardian of the crossroads. Go to a corner and leave a few coins, asking for their blessing and their permission to approach, you know, to enter that domain. And then you reach out to Maria Padilha in this example. Be respectful, okay? Mind how you're going to phrase what you're going to say. Explain your situation, tell them what you need help with, what's the outcome you're looking for. And I'm giving you this as an offering, as a gift, so you can help me, and if I get the result that I want, I will come back and give you another gift. That's it. By the way, this reminds me that the other day I did a full crossroads offering tutorial on my Patreon page. Yeah, that's right. So if you're interested in this topic and also in other things, make sure to check out my Patreon page, because over there you have access to exclusive bonus content, like for example my personal practice with Pombagiras for only 1 cup of coffee per month. So don't miss out on that. It's going to be the first link in the description. If the Pombagira helps you out and you have the outcome that you wanted, make sure that you're going to go back there and give her a gift, okay? Keep your word. That's very important. And don't do this kind of thing in a crossroads through which you go by in your day-to-day. Choose some crossroads that is not part of your routine, because you should not pass through that crossroads for at least 7 days, okay? Now, if you want to know a little bit more of theory, let's say, about Pombagiras, I do have a few book recommendations for you. We have, for example, Maria Padilha, The Key Holder of Midnight by Veronica Rivas. Something very interesting in this book is how the author makes a comparison between Pombagira and an Asian entity that is very similar. I have a theory that at the end of the day, we're all dealing with the same entities, but we just call them different names depending on time period and culture. So this is a very good book focused on Maria Padilha, which is one of the Pombagiras that exist. We we have also Maria Padilha, Queen of the Souls by Humberto Maggi and Veronica Rivas. By the way, Veronica Rivas, she's not Brazilian, but she's been through the practice. I think she's initiated and everything. She has years of experience within Kimbanda, if I'm not mistaken. So this is a person who is not Brazilian, but they can totally talk about those entities. And she does it better than I have to admit. So, Maria Padilha, Queen of the Souls. This is one like subdivision within the group. I'm not gonna get into that, but this is also a good book. Next up we have Queen of the Seven Crossroads. That's another Pombagira, also by Humberto Maggi. In these three books, the authors will tell you who those Pombagiras are, how to work with them, what do you do, etc. So they are interesting to take a look at. And if you can read Portuguese, a very good book is Descomplicando os Guias de Umbanda by Eliana Paco. This author has a very good collection of books. It's a series called Umbanda. Nice to meet you. Umbanda, muito prazer. So I really recommend the books by Eliana Paco if you can read Portuguese. So in this book, she talks about who is Pombagira, who is Exu, who is Malandro, among other entities. So again, if you want to know more about what is Umbanda, make sure to check out the video that is going to be appearing on the screen somewhere here, the video that I've made about it. And as always, thank you so much for watching, and remember, practice makes perfect. So let's get witching. Bye bye.